Hi my loves, welcome to the channel Style by C. Today's tutorial will be on how to recreate this beautiful two-piece. Do subscribe to the channel, share to friends, don't forget to give us a thumbs up. First thing first, we're going to be marking out is the full length of our shirts. So for this tutorial, I'm going to be working with 28 inches for the full length of my shirt. Okay, so I'm going to make it to 29 inches for the full length of my shirt. I'm adding 1 inch seam allowance to it. I'm going to mark it. Now from the center piece of my pattern paper, I'm going to go in by 4 inches. And I'm going to mark it all the way up to my start point line. So here now, which is my start line, I'm going to go ahead and mark my shoulder measurements. Okay, so the shoulder measurement I'm working with is 8 inches. I'm going to mark it. From there, I'm going to come down to 1 inch for my shoulder slope. Alright, now the next thing to do is on this shoulder line, I'm going to mark my neck width, which is 3 inches, and I'll connect it to my shoulder slope here. And this is what we have. Now the next step now to do is from your shoulder slope, you're going to go down to your armhole measurements. Mine is 7.5. Divide your bust measurements by 6, add 1.5 inches to it, you will get yours. So on this chest line depth, I'm going to mark my shoulder line at that point. And this is what I have. Sorry, my marker is wrong. And this is what I have. Alright, so now I'm also going to mark the same thing here. Then I'm going to connect these points together. And this is what we have. Alright, so I'm going to make a line across this chest points line. Now from my shoulder line, I'm going to go down to my waist measurements, which is at 16 inches. Here now, on my chest line, I will start my bust measurements, which is 8.75 inches. On my waistline, I'm going to insert my waist measurements, which is 7.5 inches. Alright. Then I'm going to add my seam allowance to them. I'm working with 2 inches seam allowance for this. And this is what we have. Okay. Now the next thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to connect these points together. Please, I'm still going to come over to working on the armhole area, the neck area, the lapel, and all the rest of them. So from here now, I'm going to connect to my waist. Then from my waist, I'm going to go down to the bottom of my, or the base of my shirt. Alright, for the base of my shirt, I do not have any specific measurements for it, but you can decide to work with your hip measurements. My hip measurement is 9.5 inches plus 2 inches seam allowance. Okay, so I'll go ahead and retrace this line, and this is what I have. Now at the base of my shirt, what I have to do is from this point, I'm going to come up by 1 inch. So this is the base of my shirt. Okay, from there from the base I come up by 1 inch. Now from this 1 inch, I'm going to be connecting to the center piece of my shirt. Alright, so I'm going to make use of this curved rule to make my curve. And this is what we have. Now let's work on the spats proper. Okay, let's work on the shirt area. I have no choice. So guys, now we're going to be working on the upper part of our shirt proper. Okay, so first thing first now is I'm going to divide what I have on my armhole measurements into 2 to get the midpoint. And this is my midpoint. So from this midpoint now, I'm going to be making a curve into my armhole measurements. And this is what I have. Okay, so I made a curve from here into the chest line. Now the next thing I'm going to make this close. So the next thing I'm going ahead to do at this point now is I'm going to mark my neck width, my neck depth, sorry, which is 3 inches deep. Now I'm going to be connecting it to my neck width. And this is what we have for our neck width. The next step now is we're going to be having a button on our shirt. So I'm going to be marking my button allowance. So from the centerpiece of my shirt, I'm going to go ahead and mark 1 inch outwards, from starting off from my neck width all the way to the base of my shirt. Guys, after doing this now, I'm going to come over, I'm going to determine where I want my lapel or cap collar to kick off from, like the breaking point of it. So I want mine to be on my chest line. So first thing first is I'm going to extend this horizontal chest line of mine towards this point. Okay, I want ahead to extend it to this area. Alright, and the same thing on my neck width. I'm also going to extend my neck width into the 1 inch button allowance we have, and this is what we have. So now from my neck width, now I'm going to connect to this point, which is my breaking point. Okay, where my lapel, where my collar is going to be. Okay, so from my neck width, I'm going to connect here. And this is what I have. Alright, next thing we're going to do now is from this point, which is our neck width, you're going to be going up to 4 inches. Okay, place your tape in a slant form, not in a straight line, not in a like this way, in a slant form, following the point, the line you made earlier. Okay, so I'm going to mark my 4 inches, and this is where I have the 4 inches. Now I'm going to make this row. Okay, so this is what I have. Now the next thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to extend this to, I'm going to reduce it from here. Now I'm going to go out by 1/4 of an inch, 0.25 inches, and this is what I have here. So I'll go ahead to extend the line back. That's 0.75 inches, and this is it here. Okay, so this is the one I'm working with. For this other line is going off. Okay, so from this 0.25 inches I went out by, I'm going to mark 4 inches on a slant rule again. So from this point I'm going to mark 4 inches, and this is the 4 inches. Now from here I'm going to connect to my 4 inches in this form. Alright, now I'm going to come back to my neck width, which is here. Okay, and I'm going to go up by 1/2 inch, 0.5 inches. And this is my 0.5 inches here, and this is where our button allowance is. This is our neck width. Then before we had this 1 inch button allowance. Now from this point I'm going to be connecting to this 0.5 inches or 1/2 inch we have. And this is it. The next thing to do now is I'm going to be using the curved part of my root to connect to the 4 inches upwards. So I'll go ahead and make my connection of the color. And this is what we have. So this is what our lapel or collar is looking like. The next thing to do now is to go ahead and cut this piece out. So my neck width, or what we had earlier, that is the drawing of our neck, I went ahead to trace this so it will blend in properly, because here now we had extra of some few inches and it's not looking nice at all. So I went ahead to trace mine to give it the sharp finishing and good look. Okay, so this is what I have. Alright, so now working on our back piece. Okay, so first thing first is insert the measurements you use for your front piece here. We worked to 29 inches and I have 29 inches here. So this is my start point line. I'm going to mark my shoulder measurements, which is 8 inches. From that point, I'm going to go down to 1 inch for my shoulder slope. From there, I'm going down to my armhole measurements, and this is what I have. Okay, now for my neck width, I'm going to use the same neck width I used for my front, which is 3 inches, and I'll go ahead to connect it to my shoulder slope. Alright, so this is our chest line. Divide what you have on your armhole into 2 to get the midpoints. And this is our midpoint. So at that midpoint, you mark your shoulder measurements at that point. So I'm connecting both my shoulder slope to my chest line now. This is the midpoint. So from there, I'm going to be making a curve into my chest line. So from the start point line now, I'm going to mark my waist measurements, which is at 16 inches. Here now, we're going to mark our waist measurement. So the waist measurement I'm working with is 7.5 inches. Here we're going to mark our bust measurements, which is 8.75 inches. Plus 2 inches seam allowance. You can decide to work with 1 inch or 1.5 inch seam allowance. Then on the base of our shirt, I'm going to mark my hip measurement, which is 9.5 inches. Plus 2 inches seam allowance. Now I'll connect these 3 points together from the chest line to the waist, from the waist to the hip or the base of our shirt. Now we'll go ahead to cut it out. But before then, the neck width we're going to be working with is 2 inches deep. I'm going to work with 2 inches. You can decide to work with 1.5 inches. So let's work with 1.5 inches. So I'm working with 1.5 inches for my neck depth. So I'll go ahead now to cut this out. So guys, this is my pattern piece. I've placed it on a folded fabric, okay, to cut out my front piece. Now for this side, I added 1/2 inch to it. This is for my stitching allowance. I didn't add to the side, only to the center, okay, because we already have a stitching allowance or seam allowance to our dress. So we'll go ahead to cut this piece out. Okay, before I slept this morning, not even 9 days, baby. Yeah, baby. Yeah, baby. Alright guys, so now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to alternate this pattern paper to cut out a facing for our shirt piece. Okay, that is for the front piece. Now I'm going to, from my shoulder line, I'm going to come down to my bust line, which is at 10 inches. This is my bust line at 10 inches. And I'm going to make a row across that point. Okay, now I'm going to mark my nipple to nipple measurements, which is 4 inches, starting from the center piece, not from this 1 inch row. From here we had earlier, the first line. I'll mark my nipple to nipple measurement, which is 4 inches, all the way to the base of my shirt. Now I'll connect them using a row. I'll connect them on a straight row. And this is what I have. Now this is the midpoint of my armhole, which is here. So from here now I'm going to be connecting to my nipple to nipple measure. Yeah, my bust point, sorry. So go ahead and cut this out. So this is what I have. I'll go ahead now to cut this piece out. So this is going to be serving as my fixing. This pattern, I'm going to be using it for my fixing. Okay, this is for my facing piece. Okay, I also went ahead to add extra half an inch on the side for stitching allowance, just like we did for the front. Okay, so I did the same thing on my lining piece or on the facing piece. So next, the next thing we're doing now is we're cutting out the sleeve. How long do you want your sleeve to be? But the one in this tutorial stopped, the one in the thumbnail stopped on my elbow line. So from my shoulder to my elbow, I have about 11 inches or 12 inches. So I'm going to mark 14 inches, that is both for stitching allowance, or 15 inches, both for my seam allowance included. Okay, so now I'm going to make a row across the line. So I have my sleeve length to be 15 inches, 15.5 inches. Alright, so from the tip or start point of my sleeve, I'm going to come down to 4 inches. This is my cap height. Now here, I'm going to set my bust measurements plus the seam allowance. Alright, so from here, I'm going to go ahead and make my sleeve, draw my sleeve cap. And this is what I have. Alright, then I'm going to come down here, insert my wrist or my round sleeve. Now we'll put those. What we have. I'm going to notch this piece. Some of this is for my collar piece. I also went ahead to cut it out, okay, and I added half an inch all round of it. All right, so now I'm going to be cutting this is two here. It's going to be coming out as a double. I'm going to go ahead to cut out another piece that is going to look like this. Okay, so love, this is my front piece and this is my back piece. Okay, note that we curved our front piece, so I also do the same thing for my back piece. I place my front piece on top of it and I'll go ahead to cut it. Okay, and this is what I have. So I'll trim out this. So loves, this is my collar piece, okay, and this is what I have. You can decide to cut yours without having a joining, but due to my fabric I had to have a joining. All right, just go ahead and fold it in, place it and cut it out. But for mine I had a joining. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to place this. You're also going to go ahead and attach an edge stay to yours if you want it to be stiff, or to get that stiffness. Please kindly ensure that you add an edge stay or gum stay or collar stay to yours. Okay, so now the next thing I'm going to do now is from this upper part, I'm going to come down to 1.5 inches. And this is it here. I also do the same thing for this other side, 1.5 inches. All right, now I'm going to mark half an inch at the upper part of the collar. This is the half an inch. I'm going to mark it all the way down to this point. Then I'll connect it to my half an inch here. Same thing with this other side. And this is what I have. So what I have to do next now is I'm going to run a stitch from this point now towards this end to this point. Okay, so I'll keep this aside, then I'll talk on the material, the shirt itself. Okay, so this is for my front piece. Remember, we cut out a facing for it, and this is what we have. So first thing first I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and run a stitch on this side, that is the button allowance area, then the bottom part of it. Okay, I'm going to run a stitch on it, then I'll show you what next after that. So loves, this is for my front shirt, and I've gone ahead to run a stitch on the bottom part of it. So I'm going to turn this out. This is the bottom or the base of our shirt, and this is what we have. So we're going to be ironing this down, but before then I'm going to go ahead and run a stitch on the bottom of this shirt. Okay, you can decide to fold it in and run a stitch. You can decide to weave it before running a stitch on it, but I'm going to fold it in and run a stitch on it. So loves, at this point now, I've gone ahead to run a stitch on my facing and my shirt piece, and this is what I have. This is what the inside looks like, this is what the outside looks like. Okay, so this is what we're trying to achieve. The camp collar that is going to be at the chest line, this part. Let me hold this with. So this is what we are trying to achieve. Okay, so now we're going to be introducing our back piece first. Okay, then we will now introduce our collar piece. Okay, so I'll keep this way, and this is my back piece. Now I'm going to join the two shoulders together. So to join these two shoulders together, remember we have a facing for the front. Now I'm going to keep this facing aside. I'm just going to join the main shirt piece, the main front shirt piece, and the back piece together. That is the two shoulders together. So let me hold it down with a pin so I see what I'm talking about first. I'm holding it down with a pin. I will also do the same thing for this other side of the shoulder. I will join these two together using my pin. And this is what I have. Okay, now I'm going to turn to the side. That is, let's face the right side of our fabric. Sorry, this is still the wrong side of it. So I opened up the shirt piece. This is the front shirt, and I'm going to place it this way. Now from here, now I'm going to mark 1 inch to 1.5 inches. I'm going to mark 1.5 inches. This is for my center piece, that is the front shirt. From this center now I'm going to mark 1.5 inches, and I'm going to close up this 1.5 inches. From here now I'm going to use 1/2 inch to close up this area. I'll close up this area. So now, after closing up that 1.5 inches, I'm going to turn it out so I will see what it looks like before we proceed. So when I turn it out, this is what I have. This is what it's looking like, and we still have this opening here. This is where we're going to be joining our collar to. Okay, so the next thing I'm going ahead to do now is to join my two shoulders together. So guys, now the next thing to do is to attach our collar to our shirt, to the neck area of our shirt. So now what we are going to do is you're going to be attaching this from the wrong side of it, not from this is the right side. So I have to place it from the wrong side. This is the wrong side of my shirt. Okay, so I'll place this wrong side to wrong side, then I'll go ahead and run a stitch on it. So loves, at this point now I'm going ahead to join my collar piece to my shirt. Now the next thing to do now is to weave that area, that is where you had your joining to your shirt piece. Either you weave it or you go ahead and use a bias to turn it out, like to close up these rough edges. Okay, so this is what you have, or this is what we have. The next thing to do now is to go ahead and iron this down properly. So this is what our shirt piece is looking like. So now this is the sleeve. I'm going to be attaching it to the shoulder area or the arm area of our shirt. Okay, so I'll go ahead and fix my sleeve to it.